Imagine a world where multi-billion-dollar AI models are failing the exact same basic attention tests as your average 13-year-old.
Right, yeah.
But at the exact same time, humanity is engineering a single fuel to take us back to the lunar surface. Welcome to Wednesday, June 10th, 2026.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. And our mission for you on today's deep dive is to sift through this huge stack of dense, wide-ranging updates we have. I mean, we're going from global geopolitical flashpoints to, historic milestones in space and sports.
We really run the gamut today.
We do. And we're going to synthesize all of this into a clear, engaging picture of the world right now. But before we jump in, I want to make an explicit promise to you, the listener.
Very important point here.
Yeah, we are going to be discussing some highly charged political events today, both domestic and international, and we are not taking any sides.
Exactly. We don't endorse any specific viewpoints here.
Right. We are simply imparting the facts directly from our sources, impartially, so you have the unvarnished information.
Because when you look at the sources today, we are seeing this profound duality.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we have this intense friction and conflict on the ground, but simultaneously, we're pushing the absolute boundaries of human technology.
It's like we're a species trying to outrun our own earthly limitations.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the most immediate global shockwave today is military, but you are going to feel it in your wallet.
Oh, without a doubt.
So think of the Strait of Hormuz not just as a shipping lane. It's basically the aortic valve of the global economy.
Right. And it's under massive pressure right now.
Exactly. According to CNTCom, an Army Apache helicopter was down near the strait. And U.S. forces have already launched retaliatory strikes against Iran.
And, the rhetoric from the White House is escalating right alongside those strikes.
Yeah, President Trump is pretty direct.
Very direct. He warned that Iran is dragging its feet on ceasefire negotiations and will, quote, pay the price. But the immediate consequence is what happens to that economic aortic valve you mentioned.
Right, the oil.
Exactly. 20% of the world's oil flows through that specific geographic bottleneck.
Which is wild to think about. 20%.
Yeah, so when you have military strikes in that vicinity, the market just panics. Brent crude immediately spiked to $91.10 per barrel.
And a spike in crude oil isn't just about gas prices for your car.
No, not at all.
It acts like this invisible tax on literally everything, like the plastic in your phone, the fertilizer for your food.
Diesel in the delivery trucks.
Exactly. It bleeds into baseline costs, which is why inflation just hit its fastest rate in 3 years.
And that global instability, it comes right back home to domestic politics.
Because economic stress always breeds political friction. It's like a global game of Jenga, right? You pull a military piece in the Middle East, and immediately the economic tower at home starts wobbling.
That is exactly what's happening, and we're seeing it play out in Washington right now.
Right. So President Trump just informed House Speaker Mike Johnson that he is elevating Bill Polt to acting director of national intelligence.
Right, effective June 19.
Yeah. And in response to this, Democrats are threatening to let FISA Section 702 lapse.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, national security appointments and surveillance laws suddenly become these high-stakes bargaining chips during moments of international tension.
But wait, explain FISA 702 for a second.
Sure. So FISA Section 702 is basically the legislative framework that allows U.S. intelligence agencies to conduct warrantless surveillance on foreign targets.
Okay.
Using American communication infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's largely considered the crown jewel of foreign intelligence gathering.
Right. But I want to explore the actual mechanism of that threat, because FISA 702 is, it's a congressional reauthorization issue.
Yes, it requires Congress to act.
Right. So how does the threat of letting a surveillance law lapse actually function as a pressure tactic against a presidential appointment?
Well, it functions as a legislative hostage situation, basically.
Well.
Yeah, because Polt is being elevated to an acting role, right? He completely bypasses the traditional lengthy Senate confirmation hearings. So the opposition party has very few tools to stop an acting appointment. However, FISA 702 requires Congress to vote to renew its funding and legal authority.
So the Democrats are essentially saying, if you unilaterally install an intelligence director we oppose, we just won't authorize the tools that director needs.
Exactly. They are targeting the actual machinery of the intelligence apparatus to block the appointment.
That is a massive level of macro-level stress. I mean, international conflict, inflation, bitter congressional showdowns, and all of that always trickles down to the ballot box.
Oh, 100%. We just got Tuesday's primary results.
Right. And you can really see voters reacting to all this anxiety. In Maine, the progressive candidate, Platner, won the Democratic Senate primary by a massive margin.
And out in Nevada, the governor's race is officially set.
Yeah, it's going to be between Democratic Attorney General Aaron Ford and Republican Governor Joe Lombardo.
Which really shows that the electorate is highly polarized right now.
Oh, totally.
They're seeking very distinct, strong leadership at the state level, almost to counteract the national anxiety.
Yeah, but you see that anxiety manifesting physically when we look beyond our own borders, too.
Definitely. International friction isn't just, a debate in a situation room.
Right. It's causing literal fires in local communities. The anxiety over who crosses borders and who bears the burden of these global crises is just boiling over.
Let's look at Belfast.
Yeah, the anti-immigration riots. They broke out across the city, sparked by the arrest of a Sudanese man who's accused of a stabbing.
And it escalated so quickly. I mean, firefighters had to physically escort immigrant families out of burning homes.
That is just horrific.
Yeah.
UK leaders are obviously making urgent calls for calm, but then thousands of miles away in Kenya, you have another intense local flashpoint.
Right. Completely different context, but same underlying tension.
Exactly. Protests turned deadly when police fatally shot a demonstrator. But the catalyst for the protest is what really caught my attention.
The quarantine facility.
Yes. Kenyans are protesting the Trump administration's decision to establish a facility in Kenya to quarantine Americans who have been exposed to Ebola.
Rather than bringing them back to U.S. soil.
Right. And I have to push back on this a little bit. Look, I understand the epidemiological logic of a quarantine. You absolutely want to contain a highly lethal virus like Ebola.
Sure.
But exporting your nation's quarantine to another sovereign nation, that is a wild concept. You are essentially paying another country to absorb your biological risk.
It is a highly controversial concept, but, from a purely geopolitical standpoint, what you're seeing is the U.S. leveraging its foreign aid and its diplomatic weight.
To keep the threat away.
Right, to keep biological threats thousands of miles from its own shores. It is a calculated buffer strategy.
Okay, so Kenya assumes the local geographic risk, and the U.S. presumably provides the funding and infrastructure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as the deadly protests show, the local population is fiercely rejecting being used as a biological buffer zone.
Understandably so. And, we are seeing borders tighten in even the most unifying global arenas.
You're talking about the World Cup.
Yeah. A Somali World Cup referee was just denied a U.S. visa. He's actually the second African official barred from the 2026 tournament just this week.
Which has caused a huge uproar. FIFA and various African football federations have filed formal protests.
Yeah, but the State Department hasn't commented at all. It just feels like the ultimate irony, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, we are highly connected. We're hosting this massive global tournament, yet we're increasingly building these insurmountable walls.
Yeah, whether it is a deadly pathogen or economic migration in Belfast or even international sports, the friction point is always the same.
Sovereign borders.
Exactly. Sovereign borders and who is permitted to cross them. It generates a profound sense of chaos.
So what does this all mean for accountability?
That's the big question.
Because when human institutions attempt to impose order on all that chaos, the results are wildly inconsistent.
They really are. I mean, look at the Middle East right now.
Right. UN human rights investigators are currently deploying to collect evidence of alleged abuses in Lebanon after Israeli strikes killed at least 13 people in the south.
And concurrently, you have Italian prosecutors formally opening an investigation into Israel's national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir.
Over the alleged torture and kidnapping of Italian activists from the Gaza flotilla.
Right. And Ben-Gvir claims he won't shy away from the investigation.
But I have to ask, are these probes actually effective mechanisms for justice? Or are they just largely symbolic diplomatic theater?
This raises an important question about the actual limits of international jurisdiction.
Right, because they seem to take forever.
They do. International tribunals and probes move at a glacial pace. They're incredibly effective at establishing a historical legal record.
Which is important.
It is vital for long-term justice.
Yeah.
But they lack immediate enforcement power. They rarely offer tangible resolution for the victims on the ground in the moment.
Yeah, and you really have to contrast the slow, murky wheels of those international probes with the story out of Nigeria today.
Oh, the military rescue operation.
Yes. The Nigerian military just executed one of the largest single operations against Boko Haram militants in years.
They didn't open a probe.
Exactly. They launched a highly coordinated kinetic operation and physically rescued 360 abductees in one go.
Tangible, immediate resolution.
Yeah. But institutional oversight is inherently slow, and we're seeing those slow wheels turning stateside, too.
With Bill Gates.
Right. Bill Gates just sat for a closed-door interview with the House Oversight Committee regarding his past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
And that was alongside separate testimony from Epstein's former assistant.
Right. And I was just thinking, it requires a massive amount of sustained human attention to untangle billion-dollar corporate relationships and international war crimes.
And sustained attention is suddenly in very short supply.
Oh, man, isn't it?
We are seeing data today indicating a severe crisis in cognitive endurance, both biological and artificial.
Let's start with the biological.
Okay, so the new National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP test scores, just dropped.
And the data is pretty surprising.
Yeah, it is. It shows that 9-year-olds actually improved in math and reading. They were entirely unaffected by the pandemic-era school closures.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah, but the 13-year-olds fell even further behind.
Yeah.
And there's a highly concerning drop in the number of them saying they read for fun.
So that early developmental window for 9-year-olds seems somewhat insulated. But once a teenager enters the modern digital ecosystem, the complex attention required to just sit and read a book is eroding.
It's vanishing.
But okay, I have to point out the dark comedy in the next piece of data.
Oh, the AI study.
Yes. We are wringing our hands complaining that 13-year-olds can't focus on a book. Meanwhile, a new study reveals our multi-billion-dollar AI models are failing the exact same basic attention tests.
The parallel is just staggering.
It's hilarious and terrifying.
Researchers took the leading large language models and gave them classic psychology attention tests.
And what happened?
As the tasks grew longer and more complex, the AI's performance deteriorated sharply. It reveals a fundamental architectural limit.
Okay, wait, explain that.
So, as the context window, which is the amount of information the AI has to hold in its active memory, gets larger, the neural networks begin to lose the thread.
Much like a distracted teenager scrolling on their phone.
Exactly. Sustained, complex attention isn't just a biological hurdle. It is a structural problem we haven't solved in code either.
Both the algorithms and the adolescents are losing their train of thought.
Right. But there's a massive silver lining in the medical science world today regarding human cognition.
The Alzheimer's breakthrough.
Yes. Researchers have officially identified a new Alzheimer's disease target. And they didn't just find the target, they developed an experimental compound that blocks the damaging process.
Wait, really?
Yeah. In mice, it actually slowed nerve cell loss and reduced Alzheimer's-related cognitive decline.
That is incredible. How does it work?
The mechanism they discovered is brilliant. Previously, a lot of research focused heavily on clearing amyloid plaques from the brain.
Right, I've heard about that.
But this new compound targets a specific inflammatory pathway that triggers microglial cells, which are basically the brain's immune system, to mistakenly attack healthy synapses.
Oh, wow. So they essentially found a way to turn off the friendly fire switch in the brain.
Precisely.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Because while we are reverse engineering the intricate pathways of the human brain, we are also engineering our way off the planet entirely.
Defying gravity in more ways than one.
Exactly. We are shifting from the friction of the Earth to the absolute outer limits of space and tech. Tomorrow, June 11th, SpaceX is pricing its historic IPO at $135 a share.
And they are aiming for a $75 billion raise.
Which places their valuation at a staggering $1.75 trillion?
It is the largest initial public offering in human history.
That is just hard to wrap your head around. It debuts Friday under the ticker SPCX, and the demand is unreal.
Yeah, it's already twice oversubscribed.
With over $10 billion in verified institutional orders. Plus, MSCI confirmed it for early index inclusion.
And that MSCI inclusion is the critical mechanism driving the valuation.
Why is that?
Well, when a stock is added to a major global index like MSCI, massive institutional mutual funds and pension funds are contractually obligated to buy the stock.
Oh, so their portfolios match the index.
Exactly. It creates a massive guaranteed floor of demand.
It is an absolute tidal wave of capitalistic scale. But contrast that commercial spaceflight boom with the state-funded side of exploration.
Artemis III.
Yes. NASA just announced the official crew for Artemis III. We've got Commander Randy Bresnik, ESA pilot Luca Parmitano, and mission specialists Frank Rubio and Andre Douglas.
And they are going to helm the first crewed lunar landing since Apollo 17 in 1972.
54 years since humanity walked on the moon.
And the logistical challenge this time is vastly different.
Right, they aren't going to the equatorial regions like the Apollo missions, are they?
No, Artemis III is targeting the lunar South Pole. They want to investigate permanently shadowed craters for water ice.
Which is essential for establishing a sustained base camp.
Exactly.
And to get there, the propulsion technology is evolving just as fast. MIT researchers just demonstrated a single fuel that can power both chemical and electric spacecraft thrusters.
This is a huge leap.
But wait, explain the physics of how that even works. Because normally you need something volatile like liquid hydrazine for a chemical burst, right?
Right.
And then a completely different system using noble gases for the electric ion thrusters. How do you combine completely different states of matter into one system?
By abandoning those traditional elements altogether, MIT developed a specialized ionic liquid. It's basically a molten salt that remains liquid at room temperature.
Okay, a molten salt.
Yeah. When ignited conventionally, it provides that powerful chemical thrust needed to break orbit or maneuver quickly.
The quick burst.
Right. But that exact same liquid can also be fed into an electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
And when it does, it emits a steady stream of ions for slow, highly efficient, long-range electric propulsion.
Wow. So by using one monopropellant for both systems, spacecraft can drastically reduce their weight and complexity.
Exactly. Which fundamentally transforms what small satellites are capable of doing.
And that perfectly complements this new era of commercial spaceflight that the SpaceX IPO is unleashing. The innovation is relentless.
It really is.
Even back on the ground, Apple's WWDC is continuing through Friday.
Right, focusing heavily on AI.
Yeah, the focus is entirely on iOS 27's Apple Intelligence features and their new Liquid Glass UI.
The beta is out now, right?
It is, and the interface is fascinating. It uses spatial computing cues to render this fluid, translucent overlay that actually adapts its depth and lighting based on the ambient environment of the user.
It really feels like the tech world is sprinting at light speed while the geopolitical world is tripping over its own feet.
That is exactly the profound duality we noted at the beginning. And, you know, with all that heavy news, the military strikes, the border riots, the inflation, we all need a pressure release valve.
We absolutely do.
And culture is delivering that grounding escapism in a massive way this week. If you are a sports fan, tonight at Madison Square Garden is monumental.
Game 4 of the NBA Finals.
Yes. The Knicks are hosting the Spurs, leading the series 2-1 after San Antonio ended their 13-game playoff streak.
And if the Knicks win tonight, they are one game away from their first championship since 1973.
It is a city chasing a 53-year-old ghost.
But, you know, if the Spurs rally, we are looking at a best-of-3 dogfight.
Oh, it's going to be intense. And then tomorrow, the globe truly unites. June 11th, the 2026 FIFA World Cup officially opens.
Mexico is playing South Africa at the legendary Estadio Azteca.
Which is a beautiful echo of cultural history, isn't it?
It really is. That was the exact same opening match we saw in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa.
I remember that. And the logistics of this tournament are just staggering, spanning 3 countries. Mexico City has literally declared tomorrow a public holiday to accommodate the opening.
And the ceremonies are huge. Shakira and Burna Boy are headlining.
Yeah, and the finale is already locked in for July 19th at MetLife Stadium, where Shakira returns to co-headline with Madonna and BTS.
It's going to be a massive cultural moment.
So I have to ask you, the listener, what stands out to you? Are you glued to the MSG broadcast tonight, watching the Knicks chase history, or are you tuning into Azteca tomorrow?
It really feels like the ultimate shared global language right now. Sports serve as a necessary unifying escapism.
They really do.
And actually, nature is offering us a bit of a physical release valve today, too.
Yes. A quick weather update to end the day. If you are in the Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, that cold front is finally pushing through.
Oh, they need it.
You are getting that much-needed 10 to 15-degree temperature drop after suffering through last weekend's brutal heat dome.
And thankfully, the Atlantic hurricane basin remains completely quiet.
The relief of a literal cool front breaking a heat dome. It is a very fitting end to a high-pressure news cycle.
It is.
We have covered a wild spectrum today, From the aortic valve of the global economy wobbling with strikes over the Strait of Hormuz and AI failing basic psychology tests.
To humanity literally engineering single-fuel thrusters to return to the lunar surface.
Right, and the whole world coming together for the World Cup.
It leaves us with a profound paradox to consider.
What's that?
Well, we've seen today that as our technology reaches for the stars and our AI attempts to mimic our own minds, our most pressing challenges, from the friction at our sovereign borders to our basic human attention spans, remain profoundly earthbound.
That is very true.
So will the incredible innovations we are funding today actually solve the geopolitical and cognitive frictions of tomorrow? Or will they just give us a faster, more expensive way to escape them?
Man, that is the ultimate question. The economic Jenga tower might be wobbling, but hey, at least we are building rocket ships on the top block.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep paying attention, and we will catch you next time.